Hello everybody, welcome to the MX Bikes video, and today guys, I'm showing you what a 4,000 hour MX Bikes player looks like in a Supercross race. Now, this isn't going to be a pro race, but it is going to be a sanctioned event by Outlaw. This is their Supercross series, which I would say is a tier below the pro series in MX Bikes. So you're still going to see me racing some advanced guys, and some of them have even qualified for pro races. But the main point of this video is to show you what a 4,000 hour, well-vetted player, okay, I've been playing this game for almost 3 years, looks like versus some pretty good riders, but most of them not at the pro level. So we're going to start with qualifying, get to the heat race, and then the main event. I'm going to show you guys all that today. Hit that sub with that like button, and let's get right into the video, boys. All right, so obviously first thing on the agenda was qualifying. I did not record qualifying, but I can show you guys the full results list here. And we ended up qualifying P1. We were listed into the first heat race of the day, and you guys can see kind of how that was staggered and laid out. And you can see all the times here. Most guys were a second or two off of my pace, but there was another fairly fast guy in Sweaties that was in the lobby, and now he had qualified for the pro main event earlier that day, and I think he's qualified for most of the main events this year. So pretty fast guy. I knew that was gonna be my main competition, but there are some other guys in here I thought maybe could be a little bit sneaky. So it was important to get out in this heat race and hopefully get a dub, but also kind of scout the competition and get ready for that main event. All right, so we're on the gate here for the heat race. We got a pretty good gate pick. So, obviously we had the first gate pick. I chose the third gate over. Thought I could maybe clear the guys on my inside. We got a beta and a KTM, so it's going to be hard to get them as far as the horsepower goes and acceleration. But I knew I needed to get a good start, and I was ready to just send it by all costs. We're sending it. We're trying to get this whole shot. We're trying to check out. Let's get her done, boys. All right, so a guy on the outside got a really good jump and cut over on me, and I felt like I had no choice but to just follow him. And so I did cut the guys on my inside off, but we didn't crash. Okay, I had to avoid that, okay? Because if I kept going straight there, I was gonna either crash the guy in front of me or crash myself. So I had to cut down. It was just kind of weird, but we're in a good spot now. We're in 5th, and now I'm just like, all right, just gotta stay smooth. I know I'm faster. I can't make dumb mistakes, okay? If you can survive the first couple laps, especially in a heat race, you're gonna be all right. I haven't been doing that in the pro series this year at all. I have not been surviving the first few laps. But get by both those guys in the whoops. We're up to 3rd. And I can see these two guys up here battling, so I'm just trying to kind of catch them and try to make the passes, and then, hopefully just check out. I don't want this heat race to go on for too long. I want to kind of get into the lead, draw a gap, and just start getting ready for that main event.
Brother, how you doing? Hold on.
All right, so we're coming up through halfway into this heat race, and I kind of had a feeling he was pushing pretty hard here. Like, I was just kind of cruising, learning the track a little bit, getting my bearings, and I felt like he was really pushing hard. But I do try a different line here, and you can see that back end just didn't like it. I had terrible throttle control there, so I remember that for the future. I'm like, all right, if I take that inside, I got to be nice and smooth. But now he's got a little bit of a gap on me. And he was running a decent pace here. He was running 55s, and that's not too bad. But I knew I had a lot left in the tank. I mean, I ran a low 53 in qualifying. qualifying, so I needed to turn it up a little bit. And at this point, I had no excuse not to win this heat race. I mean, no offense to the dudes in this heat race, I didn't really recognize any names, to be honest, and that's usually a sign that I shouldn't lose. So I'm trying to push here. And I'm not trying to be an idiot, though, because we got a lot of time. 2.5 minutes may not seem like a ton of time, but it is in Supercross, because one mistake can turn into a 5, 6, 7-second error. And I had a feeling he was probably going to make at least one mistake here. So I was just kind of seeing if I could stay close behind him, follow him, and eventually pass him.
He thought they won the game. Give that guy a manual. What are you doing?
There it was, boys. That was the mistake we were waiting for. Served perfectly on a platter for us. And now all I got to do is just keep running my pace. And I knew he was kind of struggling a little bit to run it. So I was like, if I just keep running, low to mid 54s here, just keep it nice and consistent. Avoid these lappers that we were coming into, which I was super surprised we were lapping people in a heat race. But you just got to stay smart around these guys. You can see this guy, OJ's that. Yeah, I didn't really know where his bike was going to go. So we got a little bit lucky there. But yeah, we got the lead. I do almost die there. I look behind me. He's right on my arse right here. So I'm like, okay, maybe he's like down to tango. I mean, again, don't recognize the name. So I don't know what's going on. We've gapped everyone else by over 11 seconds. But then around here, I don't hear his bike anymore. So I think he might have tucked the front in the sand or something happened. So you guys will see Max Hud's going to update in a little bit here. But I'm out in front in a heat race. I can't say I've done this. I don't know if I've ever done this, actually. I don't do a lot of secondary series. All like the Supercross stuff I do is the Pro Series. So it is actually kind of fun to hop in a series like this and be out front in a heat race or something. That's just like an experience I've never really had. So it was pretty sick. We're flowing. We're feeling really good. We're trying to just get ready for that main event. And, hey, listen, I was trying to win this by a little bit of a margin here. I'm not trying to just, waltz it in. I'm trying to go, boys. Yeah, so right as I start to try to go fast, when I was already going pretty fast, I ran the 54.2 a couple laps before. I mean, 54s is a good race pace. Like, that is a pro race pace. So it just shows you, and I used to preach this all the time, to just stay consistent, consistent. And I still do, but sometimes, and it's kind of happened more since I got off auto sit, I have a lot more one-lap speed. I just do. I've been qualifying really high in a lot of these races and, aerial races and just in general. So sometimes I get a little carried away with it, but it doesn't actually help. I lose so much time on the ground, there's no real point, especially in like a heat race and stuff like that. It's a little bit different, right? If you're trying to win a race, I guess I can understand why you're just trying to send it, but we're just trying to get through a heat race here, so there's no point in doing that. But now I'm locked in, I'm back to consistent mode, and let's see how much we can win this race by. The answer is 16 seconds. That's how much we got that dub by. It is just a heat race, obviously, so it's not like the guys behind me are try-harding or anything. But I felt really good running those 54s and 55s, so I was really excited for this main event and excited to go against Sweaties. Okay, I know he's pretty quick. We got some compy. We got to go out there. You guys can see we had the fastest lap there, but some guys are running 54s and 55s as well. So we do have some competition as far as one-lap speed, but can they stay consistent in an entire main event? We're going to see right now, boys. All right, on the gate for the main event, and the guy to my inside is Sweaties himself. All right, the main competition. He's on a beta, so I knew he was going to get a better jump than me, so I wasn't really going to contest him here on the start. My goal was just to follow him along that tough block line on the inside, avoid everyone, and just get out clean. So we'll see if we can do that here, boys, get out to a good position, and hopefully win this main event. All right, just about perfectly executed. Kind of cut the inside a little bit. Didn't mean to do that, but it's kind of tough when you're like stuck in the tough block collisions. Kind of sketchy triple in there, but I knew I had to follow Mr. Sweaties here. I could not let him get confidence and get a lead, so I'm pushing hard. I'm doing that Ken Roxon first lap aggression, and I'm just not letting him get a gap. I'm not going to let it happen. I'm going to stay smooth, stay consistent, but also maintain some speed here for the first few laps and just go for it. Because this is a 15-minute main. They're not doing 20-minute mains for the 450 class. They just did 15 minutes plus 2. And so it's, still a pretty long race, right? 15 minutes is a long time, but we're both pro guys. We're consistent. So this should be a bit of an interesting one here. And I knew that I did have to play the long game, but I can't let him get away from me. Huge mistake there by Sweaties, and it was a lot earlier on in this race than I expected. I mean, we're only a minute and a half in. I honestly expected him to be pushing for a good 5 to 6 minutes before he'd make a mistake, but within the first 2 laps, I was not expecting that, so I kind of just gave it to me. Now we're out in the lead, and I had a bit of a gap because he lost a ton of time in the whoops, so my mindset now is just push, right? Keep the aggression for the next few laps because there's no E-road yet. The track's smooth. The E-road's going to come in, though, towards the end, so that's another thing you guys got to look out for. If you guys aren't familiar with MX bikes, the E-road is pretty gnarly, especially with these new OEM tires, and you're going to see that later in this main event. It gets really sketchy, but that's also something that's coming through my mind is, you know, you got to make up the time now. You got to push now because once the track gets a little bit rough and you get some kickers and stuff, you're not going to be able to go as fast. You're not going to be able to have as much of a skill gap working with you. So I'm pushing hard and seeing if in the next few laps I can maybe get this gap close to 10 seconds. You know, that might sound a little bit crazy, but I was feeling it right here. So let's push it, boys. Let's see what we can do. Couple laps has gone by and we've done basically exactly what I wanted to do, and that is to get that gap to 10 seconds. As you can see, though, lappers are gonna start coming into play. So this is when the race really starts. Around that 10-minute mark, you're 5 minutes in, you know, you're starting to lap guys. Things start getting a little bit unpredictable. So you can see the E-road's coming in as well. So we got ruts forming. You gotta really pay attention to that because all it takes is 1 to 2 laps of, you know, E-road change, and you got holes in the face of jumps and kickers, and so you always have to manage that as well. The main thing is these lappers. It's really easy to try to force passes on lappers and to not be smart. So I was just telling myself that right now. I'm like, all right, just don't force anything. You know, over a 10-second gap now, there's no reason to be stupid, all right? Because one crash could shorten that gap a lot. I mean, a lot. I mean, you could lose 7-8 seconds on one crash if you're stupid enough. So I'm telling myself, don't be stupid. 4,000 hours, by the way. Don't be stupid. And just don't force anything. Let them move. If they don't move, be smart. Let's get around these guys. right, so we made it through a huge chunk of lappers there, and we're doing pretty good. We're staying calm, we're staying composed. You can see I'm trying to take this guy's inside here, but I make a little bit of a mistake here. I instill trust in the lapper, and I let him kind of have my inside, and you can see there he takes me out on purpose. At least that's what I was kind of thinking, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I wasn't super worried. I'm like, he's not targeting the Jan, right? What did the Jan do? You know what I'm saying? I don't do anything. I'm like, you know, a fairly nice person, kind of, like sometimes. I feel like most people have respect for me, so I'm like, whatever. He just made a mistake. He's probably a new player. It's not a big deal. I mean, he is in like last place, so I was like, I'm gonna cut him some slack. But I gotta pass him again, so I do have to make another decision. Do I give him my inside again? And the Jan's a very trustworthy individual, and he does, and then he punts me on purpose again. So at this point, I know, I'm like, all right, he's punting me on purpose. Like, what are we doing, man? Like, come on. So lost a lot of time this lap. I'm not super worried, though, because that gap was pretty massive. I think I had it over 15 seconds. And so now I think the gap gets close to 5 seconds, maybe even less than that. But, yeah, it says 6 seconds there. I'm not exactly sure where the guy went. I don't know if he left the race or got the admins booted him or what happened, but he was off the track, so I wasn't worried about him anymore. But those are things that happens, especially, you know, when you're a YouTuber or if you're doing some of these off, you know, series that aren't the top tier pro series. Sometimes people just do stuff like that, but you got to deal with it. You got to keep pushing, and I know for a fact that was not going to stop me from winning this race. All right, boys, we're on a bit of a move now. That was a really good lap, and we've officially lapped into the top 10 out of the 22 guys that took the gate. So we're riding really, really good. I don't know what it was about this point in the E-Road that just felt so smooth, and it felt like it grabbed you just perfect in the corners. And I do make a little bit of a mistake here. That was honestly kind of a hard section, trying to get over that tabletop every time because that single's so small. But now is when the E-Road kind of goes from smooth and you're getting a little bit more grip in the corners to a bit choppy. You're getting holes in the face, so you kind of got to avoid certain jumps in certain areas. And so I knew I had to pay attention to that, but the gap was up to 17 seconds to second place. I don't know what was going on with Sweaties. I think he was just being a little bit inconsistent. Maybe something was going on. I have no idea, but I was not complaining. I was having so much fun in this E-Road. I haven't really experienced any main event E-Road this year in the Supercross series, so it feels cool to actually get to feel that a little bit and honestly be riding quite well in it, because usually I don't do too well on the Yamaha 450 and E-Road, but I was feeling it here, boys. About 2 minutes to go in this race, and I felt like I kind of had it wrapped up at this point. The gap was up to almost 20 seconds. I felt comfortable with that, and it was just kind of trying to switch my lines up here, deal with the E-road, and it was fun, man. I do love E-road in this game. I love when the track gets super technical. Sometimes it can be kind of frustrating depending on how the track deforms. This track in particular has some frustrating sections, but from watching the EU main event earlier today, I kind of learned which jumps get weird and which jumps don't. But either way, like this corner here got super deep, but it was smooth. This face got a mean kicker in it, so you had to go to the right or the left of that dark spot in the dirt, or you were gonna get bucked. And then right here, we do make a mistake. This was the only mistake I feel like I really made this entire race on my own, like the only major mistake. We had no crashes on our own, and that was about it. And we're gonna fast forward here to the last lap. You guys can see 4th place. Okay, we lapped all the way up through 4th place. I put a little bit of an aggressive pass on him there, and I was showboating, wheeling the sand out. There was a guy streaming this, so I kind of had to perform to him as well. I wasn't just going to try to be boring, so I get a little bit upside down here, a little bit schmeezy. But listen, you got to take the wins when they come, all right? You got to take them. That sounded kind of wrong, but you guys can see the analysis here. Other than the 2 laps where we got taken out, which was 7 and 8, we did really good. And then lap 14 was when we made that weird mistake. Other than that, every single lap was between 54 and 57 seconds. And then also I got a little bit of a slideshow here showing you guys all those little E-road nuances that you don't get to see from the first person angle. You can pause it on some of these little shots. A lot of little holes, a lot of little nooks and crannies that, I mean, you can see that one there is pretty gnarly. You don't really get to see that from my POV, but we all feel it as riders. So if you guys get that, something like, but I really appreciate it. See you guys in the next video. Peace.